Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another review, and this is of Psycho 4: The Beginning. A film that's directed by Mick Garris, who I believe directed The Stand, which I like. He directed Critters 2, which is my favorite Mick Garris film, I'll admit that. Sleepwalkers, which is like, I know this is written by Joe Stefano. He had written the original Psycho. And this was a made-for-TV movie that I believe was on Showtime. I know there was a Bates Motel, I think, TV movie or pilot, however you want to call it, probably TV movie, which I haven't seen. And of course, I know there's the new TV show, Bates Motel. But Psycho 4: The Beginning I like. I would say it's my second favorite after Psycho 2. I would go Psycho 2, Psycho 4. Then probably marginally, maybe Psycho 3 and the original Psycho. They're kind of it's there, okay. And then the Psycho remake is definitely the worst, which I'll get into after this one. But Psycho 4: The Beginning, I think what helps is that it does end the story of Norman Bates on a pretty interesting, satisfying note. I thought that Anthony Perkins did a good job. Like I said in Psycho 3, he seemed a little bit off. Again, that could be because at that time he found out he was HIV positive. That would throw anyone off. I thought he did a better job acting-wise in this film. I thought he did a really great job. It was interesting seeing the little bit of the backstory because of, you had Henry Thomas. I thought he did a good job as the younger Norman Bates. Olivia Hussey as the mother. I know my friend Alfred hates this girl a lot, but I do feel CCH Pounder did a good job in this movie. I will say that. I think this is a pretty decent film, Psycho 4: The Beginning. CCH Pounder is a woman who has a radio show. She's doing a show on matricide. And she gets a caller, and you have this doctor who I guess is supposed to be the doctor at the end of the first film. It's a different actor, but there's a doctor at the end of the first film where we're explaining all this. He happens to be there, and this caller calls in. It's Anthony Perkins. He pretty much calls in saying that he killed his mom back in the day, and he's about ready to kill again. And even on the these scenes with just him on the phone, I thought Anthony Perkins did a good job. I thought CCH Pounder did a good job. Interesting way of doing it, that he's calling in to a talk show, so that's how we're getting this information about how, the first person he killed, and you see Henry Thomas, this horny girl, tits, cool. That's why he was on Showtime, because they can show that kind of stuff. Horny girl, which I think is fine with me. Henry Thomas does a fine job and kills the girl as his mother. And he tells a little bit of his backstory, his funeral of his father, all the abuse that he took from his mom. I thought Olivia Hussey did a good job. She's sweet. She seems sweet, but when she's mean, she's a real bitch. Calling a young Norman, a dirty pig. Seeing her just lose it. She's wanting him to hold her, or to blot her leg, and he's not sure about sexuality because his mom's so dominating. And if he looks at something, he'll even when he gets hard, she dresses him up and says, "No, you're a girl," and throws him in a closet. You tell, with all this abuse, why Norman got so fucked up. And actually, really enough, John Landis, the director, is one of the people who works at the radio station. But yeah, I mean, just Olivia Hussey being very, what the hell good are you? And, I should have gotten rid of you when I was born. You should not have been born. And that, the mom had found a new man, and even the new guy was an asshole. Puts boxing gloves on Henry Thomas and hits him, makes his nose bleed. He falls to the ground, and his own mom and asshole boyfriend are laughing at him. And it's like, you can understand why Norman got pissed. And again, I thought Anthony Perkins did a good job. I mean, even this moment where he has this apple, and in frustration, he breaks it and rips it in half. And he talks about another person who died. I mean, it kind of shifts. It's not chronological. His flashback kind of jumps around to after his mom's dead and the first person he killed, to his abuse of his mom from his mom, to the second girl that he killed, which he strangled. Um, there's one moment I mentioned when Olivia Hussey's character is dead. Um, there's a moment where she's supposed to be dead, but you see her chest rise. So I'm like, yeah, that's pretty bad. I caught that. I'm like, if you look at her stomach when she's dead, I guess like a funeral or something, or like when he stole her body, you see the chest rise. I thought that was a pretty big goof. But I thought it was an interesting story because I thought, cool, the kid from E.T., he got to play a young Norman Bates, and I thought he did a good job, Henry Thomas. And Olivia Hussey, I think, did a good job. I would say I was more interested in Anthony Perkins parts because it's Anthony Perkins, but the little flashback stuff, it's interesting. And also I thought the Anthony Perkins stuff, the reason he wants to kill is because, although I don't buy the fact that after part 3, it's only 4 years later, and yet he got out of the mental hospital again. And he got married, and he's with this woman that loves him, and who's now with child. I'm like, this is only 4 years out, and he even mentions in the film that 4 years ago, which was 86, and this was 1990 when this came out, that 4 years ago was the last time people were killed. So I'm like, so at the end of the third film, where even the sheriff's like, they'll never let you out again. Apparently not. It only took 4 years, and can't even say 4 years because apparently they've been married for quite a bit, and the woman he married was like his psychiatrist or something. And I'm like, 4 years, really? Like, that's one thing that's kind of hard. That's hard to swallow. But I mean, they did what they did. I know, but it's really. But I do like the idea that the reason he's doing this is not because he thinks his mother's alive, or he's being his mother. It's because he wants to stop. He wants to let the Bates line end with me, is his line. It's because she got pregnant, and I told her I didn't want kids, and he doesn't want to bring a kid into the world that would be like him. And that's where I think you get the sympathy, is that the reason is he doesn't want another monster like he is. I mean, he calls himself a monster, and he says, I don't want to bring about another monster like I am. And that's why. So, granted, not the right way to do it, but I get the reason. I don't want to say I get the reason because it sounds like I'm condoning it, which I don't. But he's doing it not because she's a bitch. It's because, no, I don't want more people to die. I don't want more people to have to suffer because of my lineage. That's why. I thought the ending was satisfying. He invites his wife to the motel and to the psycho house, and of course before that you get the flashback where he did kill his mom, poison it with the tea. But I mean the finale where he about ready to kill her, but he can't do it, and she even goes, look at yourself. You're not that guy anymore. And he fights it off, and he drops the knife, and he decides to burn the place. And right, he's suffering through hallucinations, but he still continues to burn the place, and he escapes. And he goes, I'm free. Even though he said that at the end of the third movie, but apparently he's been fine, but he just didn't want a kid because he thought, and she's like, what about me? His wife goes, what about me? Don't I count for something? You're a good man now, and he'll be a good. I like the way that story direction went, because I thought it was interesting. I mean, how many times do you see a franchise where in the first film he's a killer, and by the end you sympathize with him, and he beats his own demons, and he's quote free. And of course, this is the last Psycho film, so it's not like they, that's how it ends. Him being free and his wife and his baby that's going to be born. You know, he beat his demons. Not many horror film franchises can say that. Not many at all, which makes the Psycho films unique in that aspect. Pretty unique, which I do find this an interesting series. But this one I thought it went at a decent pace. Anthony Perkins, I thought, did a great job. His last performance as Norman Bates before his death, which is really sad because of HIV. Very sad. Mick Garris did a decent enough job. I thought the cast, Henry Thomas, CCH Pounder, Olivia Hussey, was fine. I thought it had a satisfying ending. I thought a little bit of backstory was alright. It's not the most intriguing, but, you know, because of the performances and you get, okay, yeah, he was abused pretty badly, and that's why he's fucked up. And I would say I put this over Psycho 3 because I thought the story was a bit more interesting. And the ending was a bit more satisfying than Psycho 3. But yeah, I just say I like Psycho 4 the beginning. I thought it was a well done movie. And I know it's a pretty short review for your taste, but what more can I say about it? I think it's an satisfying story, or satisfying way to end the story. I like the radio, him calling to the radio show. I like that idea. Anthony Perkins did a great job acting wise. Olivia Hussey as Miss Norman Bates, Miss Bates. She did a good job. You know, she seems nice, but then when she's psycho, she's purely definitely a psycho, a bitch. And Henry Thomas did a good job. You know, if you're going this for kills, you see maybe, well, I guess technically him killing his mom and the boyfriend, those would be 2, and then the 2 girls. But it's more about the story, and I thought Joseph Stefano did a pretty decent job with the story, with the script. At least that's my thoughts on it. But that's Psycho 4 the beginning. Pretty decent, pretty damn decent finale to the series. And of course now there's the remake, which I'll actually pre-record. Actually, I pre-recorded that. That was the first one I saw just to get through it. So see the worst one first, and then see the other ones. So technically, Psycho 4 is the last one I saw. But the next review you'll see is Psycho the Remake, which is the worst of the Psycho films. But this I thought was pretty good. Pretty good film. No, I'm not interested in the Base Motel, because what kept me involved with these films is Anthony Perkins. He's the big reason why I can say I like these films, is Anthony Perkins. And Anthony Perkins, I thought, did a good job in these. Again, he was off in the 3rd film, but I wouldn't say he was awful. I would not say he was awful at all. But Anthony Perkins, nice to see him in these movies. I thought he did a great job as that character. And just, again, it's weird. He kills people, but yet you can sympathize with them. It's a very hard thing to do, but I thought Anthony Perkins pulled it off. But either way, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.